go second. I mean, it's a guess. Hey guys.
Je déclare ouverte la 6e...
I call to order the 6th plenary meeting of the General Assembly. The Assembly will hear an address by His Majesty Don Felipe VI, King of Spain. I request protocol to escort His Majesty and invite him to address the Assembly. Madam President, Mr. United Nations Secretary General, heads of state and government, ambassadors, authorities, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. I appear before you today as representatives of the member states of the United Nations in this year which marks the 80th anniversary of the organization's founding. This is a timely opportunity to reflect on the present, the past and the future of this universal organization and on its contribution to peace, stability and development in a time of extreme complexity. Ours is a world that is fast-paced and unrestrained, one that frequently brings us to the brink. One in which there are voices that continue to proclaim the end of multilateralism and the obsolescence and inefficacy of the United Nations. It is said that this is the result of replacing dialogue and cooperation with competition, rivalry, and extreme tension. This is not the world we're heading towards, we hear. Rather, it is the world in which we are already immersed. In response to this sense of disintegration, we must acknowledge that times have indeed changed and we need to adapt, even anticipate, without retreating into idealism, complacency, or short-sightedness. But it is precisely at this time of uncertainty that we must read the signs of our time clearly to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past and entering irreversible spirals. We are aided in this by memory, which is the most valuable tool that any generation possesses to confront its challenges. The memory of the 20th century calls to us each time that we gather in this General Assembly. It reminds us why this house of the international community was created, under which circumstances it was born, and which dark chapters of history it sought to close definitively. Let us hear in this hall once more the opening words of the preamble to the Charter of the United Nations. They begin, "We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war." Which of the great ideals enshrined therein, peace, dignity, equality, justice, progress, has ceased to be relevant or to represent an ethical imperative? On which of these paths have we advanced sufficiently over these 8 decades to be able to declare that the journey of multilateralism and cooperation is complete? The silence in response to these questions is the clearest evidence that the United Nations is not only useful, it is indispensable and irreplaceable. Believing in the United Nations is believing firmly in the universality of the principles and values enshrined in its Charter and in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It is to resist the temptation of diluting them with specifics, relativisms, or exceptions. Because the dignity of the human being is non-negotiable. Believing in the United Nations is also believing in a rules-based world. Rules shape behaviours, to which the vast majority of international actors adhere. Even when they are breached, they provide a basis for accountability and enforcement. Rules are the voice of reason used in international relations. They are the best defense against the law of the strongest. A world without rules is uncharted territory. A time without rules is returning to the Middle Ages. The path proposed by the United Nations Charter is fraught with obstacles, and will never be fully completed. That is why the example of those who have been committed to its values is so precious. These are people working under extreme conditions, risking their freedom, their physical integrity, or even their lives, in a world plagued by conflict in all too many regions. We see this in Europe, in Ukraine, where war has been unleashed by Russia's unprovoked and unjustifiable aggression, violating the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Peace in Europe will not be possible without justice and accountability. Spain will continue to support efforts aimed at achieving a just and lasting peace, grounded in the principles of international law, respect for human rights, and accountability. We also see this in its full severity in the Middle East, in Palestine, in the Gaza Strip. We cannot remain silent or look away from the devastation, the bombings, including of hospitals, schools, and places of refuge. In light of the countless civilian deaths, famine, starvation, the forced displacement of hundreds of thousands of people. To what end? These are abhorrent acts that stand in stark contrast to everything that this forum represents. They offend human conscience and shame the entire international community. Spain is a nation deeply proud of its Sephardic roots. When we speak to the people of Israel, we speak to a people of brothers and sisters, a people who, when they return to Spain, to Córdoba, Toledo, Seville, Barcelona, and so many other places, come home. This was the spirit behind the 2015 law, which was passed with broad consensus, granting Spanish nationality to descendants of Sephardic Jews originally from Spain. It is for this reason, and it is so difficult for us to understand, that we are so pained by the actions of the Israeli government in Gaza. We therefore cry out, we implore, we demand, stop this massacre now. No more deaths in the name of a people that is so wise and ancient, who have suffered so greatly throughout history. Let us be clear. We unequivocally condemn the heinous terrorism of Hamas, especially the brutal massacre of the 7th of October 2023 against the Israeli population, and we recognize Israel's right to self-defense. But with equal strength, we demand that the Israeli government fully uphold international humanitarian law throughout Gaza and the West Bank. We demand that humanitarian aid be delivered without delay, that a ceasefire be established with guarantees, and that all hostages still held by Hamas be released immediately. The international community must shoulder its responsibility to achieve as soon as possible a viable solution that would include the existence of two states, the recognition of the state of Palestine by an increasing number of member states of this organization, to which Spain added its voice this past May, must contribute to achieving a just and definitive regional peace based on the implementation of United Nations resolutions and on the universal recognition of the State of Israel. President, delegates, as we know, many conflicts are both caused by and result in resource scarcity, state fragility, and inequality. The gap between current realities and the fulfillment of the 2030 Agenda remains vast, and the current funding shortfall for sustainable development exceeds $4 trillion per year. The call for efficiency and resource optimization made at the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development that we held recently in Seville must be sustained. Accordingly, Spain, in line with the consensus-based commitment adopted there, has launched the Seville Plan for Support to Multilateralism. We have increased our contributions to international development funds, and we have reaffirmed our commitment to defending human rights, gender equality, and the environmental transition, which are central and distinctive elements of our foreign policy. Allow me to briefly address each of these three areas. First, human rights. Spain is, as of this year, a member of the Human Rights Council, enabling us to continue advancing causes such as the fight against racism, the abolition of the death penalty, and the promotion of economic, social, and cultural rights, while at the same time persisting in the struggle against all forms of discrimination. Because we support plural, open societies in which all citizens participate, and we are concerned by the erosion of democracies, the growing disaffection towards values that are essential to democratic coexistence. In these confusing times, which are testing our capacity for dialogue, we must remain steadfast in our commitment to these values. In harmony with these principles, we believe that immigration, when properly managed, is a vector of mutual development for countries of origin, transit, and host countries. We believe that the human rights of migrants must, therefore, be the principal reference for our actions. Therefore, we fully support the implementation of the Global Compact on Migration and the Global Compact on Refugees. Secondly, I wish to refer to gender equality. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. It is therefore a fresh opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to real and effective equality. This is not merely a step forward in human rights, but above all, a matter of justice. Spain aspires to remain a global beacon in areas such as sexual and reproductive rights, the fight against sexual and gender-based violence, and the increased participation of women in leadership roles and in decision-making processes. Third, the environment. The triple planetary crisis that we are facing, climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss, demands strengthened governance and sufficient resources to accelerate a just energy transition. This must enable us to triple renewable energy capacity, double energy efficiency, and to continue decarbonizing our economies. These are goals that are as ambitious as they are essential, and doubt must be completely excluded from the equation here. Spain calls for consensus and ambition ahead of COP30, which will be held in Brazil this November. There are other just as important challenges, including managing the impact of the transformative revolution known as artificial intelligence, which can accelerate progress on the 2030 agenda if we know how to direct it towards a fair and equitable digital transformation. And in health, the global dimensions of which were tragically evident during the recent COVID pandemic, we welcome here the consensus reached on the pandemic agreement. This strengthens the central role of the World Health Organization within the global health architecture. Madam President, Spain's foreign policy is built around three fundamental axes based on geography, history, and conviction. These are towards Africa and the Mediterranean, towards the Americas and the Atlantic, and towards Europe. I would like to share some thoughts on these three areas. Spain is well aware that Africa represents a strategic global interest of the highest order. The present is marked in certain countries by structural deficiencies and some brutal conflicts and wars that receive insufficient attention when compared with others that I've already referred to. Here I'm referring to numerous peacekeeping operations in the region to which Spain contributes decisively. This is the case in Western Sahara, where Spain will continue to support the Secretary-General's personal envoy in seeking a solution that is acceptable and consistent with UN norms and frameworks. Africa's future will be shaped by a young, dynamic and proactive population that is increasingly engaged in global affairs. That's the future that we must support. Spain has therefore adopted the Spain-Africa Strategy 2025 to 2028. We want to develop a partnership based on concrete action and shared interests, and to promote vibrant African multilateralism embodied by the African Union and other sub-regional organizations. Strictly bilaterally speaking, I must mention the special relationship of neighbourliness and cooperation that binds us to the Kingdom of Morocco, which in recent years has been revitalised to the benefit of our peoples. Latin America and the Caribbean represent for Spain a community of kindred nations, an irreplaceable part of our identity strengthened by shared heritage, that is, the Spanish language, spoken by 600 million people around the world. Spain holds the pro tempore secretariat of the Ibero-American Community of Nations until the end of 2026, and Madrid will hold the next Ibero-American Summit. We will continue to support the EU's engagement in the region, which will culminate this year in the EU CELAC Summit that will be held in Colombia next month, November. The European Union is one of the greatest achievements of concord and a model for multilateralism. Its voice is more necessary than ever in these times. We therefore advocate for a union that is increasingly effective, cohesive, secure and competitive on the global economy. I think it's important to recall that on the 11th of June this year, we launched a definitive political agreement regarding the key aspects of the future accord between the European Union and the United Kingdom. This was a historic agreement that respects Spain's position on sovereignty and jurisdiction over Gibraltar, which will bring confidence, legal certainty and stability to the lives of the populations of the Campo de Gibraltar and Gibraltar itself. Madam President, I began speaking about the past and present of the United Nations, and I shall dedicate my last few words to its future. In these times of severe budgetary constraints, I call on all member states to reaffirm their commitment to this organisation. I encourage all of its personnel, led by the Secretary-General, to persist in their enormous efforts towards efficiency and effectiveness, prioritising those areas whose neglect would represent an unacceptable breach of the ethical standards that must always guide their work. We continue to believe in the need to advance reform initiatives, and we offer our capacity for dialogue and consensus building, as well as our firm multilateral conviction in this endeavour. On this 80th anniversary, which coincides with the 70th anniversary of Spain's accession to the organisation, I wish, Madam President, to renew my country's recognition of all of the men and women working within the United Nations. You are the custodians of the memory of the 20th century and the guardians of the hopes invested in the 21st. And it is now, when so many questions are surrounding multilateralism and cooperation, that we need you most. Thank you very much.
nom de l'Assemblée générale,
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the King of Spain. The Assembly will now hear an address by His Excellency Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Dear leaders, dear friends, and all those who can become our friends, because you want safety and peace just as much as we do. Today, no one but ourselves can guarantee security. Only strong alliances, only strong partners, and only our own weapons. The 21st century isn't much different from the past. If a nation wants peace, it still has to work on weapons. It's sick, but that's the reality. Not international law, not cooperation. Weapons decide who survives. Excellencies, you know perfectly well international law doesn't work fully unless you have powerful friends who are truly willing to stand up for it. And even that doesn't work without weapons. It's terrible, but without it, things would be even worse. There are no security guarantees except friends and weapons. No Ukrainian choice this kind of reality. And knowing our people, they would have chosen a different priority. Ukrainians are peaceful people, but they are people who want to live freely in their own independent country. That's why we invest in defense. For many nations, there is simply no other way left. Nations can speak about their pain from stages like this, but even during bloodshed, there isn't a single international institution that can truly stop it. That's how weak these institutions have become. What can Sudan or Somalia or Palestine or any other people living through war really expect from the UN or the global system? For decades, just statements and statements. And even everything happening in Gaza remains without a way out. Even now, Syria, after all the changes, still has to appeal to the world to ease the sanctions that are choking its economy. It has to ask and wait. Syria deserves stronger support from the international community. And as Russia's war against my country goes on, people are still dying every week. Yet there is no ceasefire because Russia refuses. Russia abducted thousands of Ukrainian children, and we have brought some of them back. And I thank everyone who's helped. But how long will it take to bring all of them home? Childhood slips away faster than adults are able to help. Look at Israel. Nearly 2 years have passed and hostages still haven't been freed. They must be freed, but even that still hasn't happened. And for years, there have been no real answers to other threats, either chemical weapons and famine used as a weapon. Last year, at this assembly, I warned the world about the risk of radiation disasters, especially due to Russia's occupations of our Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the biggest in Europe, but nothing's changed. Nothing's. And yesterday, the plant went into blackout again, and Russia hasn't stopped shelling even in areas near a nuclear facility. And because of international institutions are too weak, this madness continues. Even being part of a long-standing military alliance doesn't automatically mean you are safe. Just recently, 19 simple Russian drones violated Polish airspace, and only 4 were shut down. Luckily, they were not shaheeds, or even worse. Otherwise, the results would have been horrific. Estonia had to call a UN Security Council meeting for the first time in history because Russian fighter jets deliberately entered its airspace. Moldova is defending itself again from Russia's interference. We have helping Moldova, and Russia's trying to do to Moldova what Iran once did to Lebanon. And the global response, again, not enough. We have already lost Georgia in Europe. Human rights and the European nature of the state system are only shrinking there. Georgia is dependent on Russia. And for many, many years, Belarus has also been moving toward dependence on Russia. Europe cannot afford to lose Moldova too. It's important to remember how the world once ignored the need to help Georgia after Russia's attack, and how the moment was missed with Belarus. How Moldova must not be lost. And for Europe, supporting Moldova's stability is not costly, but failing to do so will come at a much higher price. That's why the EU needs to help Moldova now with funding and energy support, not just words or political gestures. We must not forget about protecting the rights of people and the rights of nations in regions where these rights are under threat. The UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights must apply everywhere. But the Taliban in Afghanistan dragged a whole country back into the dark ages. Cartels in some Latin America countries are more powerful than the government there. This is all about collapse of international law and the weakness of the international institutions. And so it's about the rise of weapons. Weapons decide who survives. Excellencies, yesterday President Trump stood right here in this hall, and God saved him from a murder attempt during the campaign. A shot was fired from a rifle, and just a fraction of an inch saved his life. Just days ago, President, along with hundreds of thousands of Americans, honored the memory of Charlie Kirk. Sadly, his life was cut short by a bullet. Once again, violence with a rifle in hand. We also mourn the Ukrainian woman, Irina Zarutska. She was brutally killed with a knife here in America, the very country where she was seeking refuge from Russia's war. And almost every day, when we open the news, we see headlines about violent attacks happening all around the world. Most of it is done with weapons. People are already used to, but weapons are evolving faster than our ability to defend ourselves. Now, there are tens of thousands of people who know how to professionally kill using drones. Stopping that kind of attack is harder than stopping any gun, knife, or bomb. This is what Russia has brought with its war. It used to be that only the strongest countries could use drones because they were expensive and complex. Now even simple drones can fly thousands of kilometers. War tech doesn't care about geography anymore. It's now reshaping it. Just recently, airports in Europe had to shut down because of drones. Authorities couldn't even say what kind of drones they were, who sent them, or from where. Last week, North Korea announced the test of a tactical strike drone. That means even countries with limited resources can now build weapons that are dangerous to their neighbors. Ukraine and nations like Saudi Arabia know all too well how dangerous Iranian attack drones are. But what happens when all the types of drones become available, even to small terrorist groups or cartels? The world moves too slowly to protect itself. And weapons move fast. Now companies are already working on drones that can shoot down other drones, and it's only a matter of time, not much, before drones are fighting drones, attacking critical infrastructure and targeting people all by themselves, fully autonomous and no human involved except the few who control AI systems. Dear leaders, we are now living through the most destructive arms race in human history, because this time includes artificial intelligence. And if there are no real security guarantees except friends and weapons, and if the world can't respond even to old threats, and if there is no strong platform for international security, will there be any place left on Earth that's still safe for people? We need global rules now for how AI can be used in weapons, and this is just as urgent as preventing the spread of nuclear weapons. We need to restore international cooperation, real working cooperation for peace and for security. A few years from now might already be too late. 10 years ago, war looked different, and no one imagined that cheap drones could create dead zones, areas stretching for dozens of kilometers where nothing moves, no vehicles, no life. People used to imagine that only after a nuclear strike. Now it's drawn reality. Mass-produced, simple drones, and without AI yet. Ukraine doesn't have the big fat missiles dictators love to show off in parades, but we do have drones that can fly up to 2,000-3,000 kilometers. We had no choice but to build them to protect our right to life. Control over the sea used to depend on having a big navy. Ukraine doesn't have a big fleet, but we succeeded. In the Black Sea, we pushed what's left of the Russian navy into a remote base. And we did it with sea drones. That's how we protect our ports and maritime trade routes, because Russia has left us no other choice. And our spiderweb operation, when cheap drones destroyed or damaged dozens of expensive Russian strategic bombers, became a real example for special forces around the world of what new weapons can do to old systems. These very Russian bombers attacked our cities. And none of this would have happened if Putin had not started this full-scale aggression, full-scale war. And every year that this war goes on, weapons become even more deadly. And only Russia deserves to be blamed for this. Dear leaders, to protect lives, Ukraine builds underground schools and underground hospitals. To protect lives, we have to spend more on protecting power stations from drone and missile attacks than on building sports facilities or cultural infrastructure. Ukrainian farmers are learning how to protect their equipment from Russia's FPV drone strikes, and for them that challenge is far greater than climate change. Russia's war has put us in this situation, but do you have protection against similar threats? The facts are simple. Stopping this war now, and with it, the global arms race, is cheaper than building underground kindergartens or massive bunkers, critical infrastructure later. Stopping Putin now is cheaper than trying to protect every port and every ship from terrorists with sea drones. Stopping Russia now is cheaper than wondering who will be the first to create a simple drone carrying a nuclear warhead. So we must use everything we have together to force the aggressor to stop. And only then do we have a real chance that this arms race will not end in catastrophe for all of us. If it takes weapons to do it, if it takes pressure on Russia, then it must be done. And it must be done now. Otherwise, Putin will keep driving the war forward wider and deeper. And we told you before, Ukraine is only the first, and now Russian drones are already flying across Europe, and Russian operations are already spreading across countries, and Putin wants to continue this war by expanding it, and no one can feel safe right now. So first, we are now building a new security architecture for ourselves. More than 30 countries are already part of our coalition, and we are strengthening our army, launching joint weapons production with partners, and defining financial commitments for defense in a way that could become a security model for any other nation. If security guarantees work for Ukraine, something more than just friends and weapons, it will mean that people were able to make national security not a privilege for a few nations, but a right for everyone. Second, we are ready to make our modern weapons become your modern security, your modern weapon. And we have decided to open up arms exports. And these are powerful systems tested in a real war when every international institution failed. And we are also ready to grow our defense production together with strong partners so that their protection is modern and reliable. You don't need to start this race from scratch. We are ready to share what has already proven itself in real defense. And third, many in the world are still relaxed. Still. But look at how many countries are here at this General Assembly, countries that are at war, or just came out of war, or are trying to stop one, or openly getting ready for one. War has already reached too many people to pretend it has nothing to do with you. So it depends on you. Whether you help peace or continue trading with Russia and helping Russia to fund this war, it depends on you. Whether prisoners of war will be freed, whether abducted children will come home, whether hostages will be free, it depends on you. What will define existence? War like now, or our joint strong actions as it should be? Yesterday we had a good meeting with President Trump, and I also spoke with many other strong leaders, and together we can change a lot. Of course, we are doing everything to make sure Europe truly helps. And of course, we count on the United States. I appreciate the support we are receiving. Yes, much depends on the G7 and G20, but in the end, peace depends on all of us, on the United Nations. So don't stay silent while Russia keeps dragging this war on. Please speak out and condemn it. Please join us in defending life and international law and order. People are waiting for action. Thank you so much. Slava Ukraini.
Au nom de l'Assemblée générale.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of Ukraine.
L'Assemblée va
The Assembly will hear an address by His Serene Highness, Prince Albert II, Sovereign Prince of Monaco. I request protocol to escort His Serene Highness and invite him to address the Assembly. Madam President of the General Assembly, Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. 80 years ago, the creation of the United Nations marked a decisive turning point in contemporary history in international relations, offering each state a forum for dialogue and exchange. The ambition of the founders was clear and bold. All nations, large and small, need to be able to participate on equal footing in crafting collective solutions, equality, respect, dialogue. This is the heart of the multilateral spirit and underpinning the values where Monaco found its place within the concert of nations. Over these past 8 decades, the United Nations has supported and ushered in major turning points: the reconstruction of Europe after the Second World War, the process of decolonization, the hope of an international order that is more peaceful after the Cold War. The organization contributed to the establishment of robust international law, the adoption of numerous treaties, law of the sea, counterterrorism treaties, protection of the environment, the promotion of human rights. Monaco ratified more than 270 of these treaties, which, beyond their symbolic dimension, govern the day-to-day lives of our population. The UN also played a key role in the maintenance of international peace and security. On all continents, these operations help to prevent conflict and to support democratic transitions. International justice, specifically through the judgments rendered by the International Criminal Tribunals, have been significant sources of progress in combating impunity for the gravest crimes, and the International Court of Justice remains a pillar when it comes to peaceful resolution of disputes. The United Nations has been a pioneer in ecological awareness, raising the protection of our planet, mobilizing governments, scientists, civil society to put together concerted strategies, and these are issues which are of tremendous importance to us. The UN has shed light on the role of sports as a vector for peace, for inclusion, for development. Our principal welcomes the fact that sport is increasingly taking pride of place in the work of the organization. Madam President, we are cognizant of the progress that has been made over the past 8 decades, and yet we have more challenges to surmount, which requires resolute collective action. The progress that we have made is significant, but we have a grim reality. We are in a multipolar world where international realities are significant. There are proliferation of peacekeeping operations show that dialogue and preventive diplomacy, unfortunately, do not always generate the anticipated results. International security is today gravely imperiled. International tensions and conflicts are spreading in all 4 corners of the world, and this makes it all the more necessary for there to be a reaffirmation of the core principles of the United Nations: sovereignty of states, peaceful dispute resolution, respect for international law, and human rights. In this regard, the Principality of Monaco firmly condemns the war of aggression targeting Ukraine and the suffering this has inflicted upon civilian populations, and I reiterated this message just now to President Zelensky. I cherish the hope that a just and lasting negotiated peace agreement can be found soon to guarantee security and to rise to the expectations of the Ukrainian people. In the Middle East, violence has generated unacceptable human suffering casualties. The risk of regional conflagration requires that there be an immediate de-escalation, protection of civilians, the unimpeded delivery of humanitarian assistance, and a sincere relaunch of the peace process on the basis of the 2 states. Peace is not a utopia. Peace is an overriding necessity. These security-related challenges are compounded by environmental challenges. The international community recently met in Nice for the 3rd UN Conference on Oceans, vehemently recalling the need to act for the protection of seas and oceans. The Principality organized, before the conference, a Blue Economy and Finance Forum. Heads of state, economic leaders, investors, philanthropists, development banks, NGOs, 1,800 participants arrived from nearly 100 countries, responding to the call to mobilize more financial resources to invest in a sustainable, regenerative blue economy. And yet, the commitments made notwithstanding, there are still challenges. BB&J was adopted in January last, and this should lead us to implement immediately measures for the conservation and sustainable use of the diversity in the high seas. The fight against climate change is a responsibility, a historic responsibility. Acceleration of extreme events requires credible, immediate, financed responses. We are traversing a significant difficulties. There is science which is accessible, abundant, more reliable than ever before. The Paris Agreement, the 10th anniversary of which we are marking this year, provides a structured, transparent framework which should generate robust trust among all stakeholders. This year, new nationally determined contributions have been published, and this is a reflection of the need to be more and more ambitious. I wish to recall that these ambitions are of carry moral significance, particularly vis-a-vis young people and succeeding generations, but also, as was recently recalled by the ICJ in the advisory opinion. And in this regard, and in accordance with the new collective goal for financing, which was adopted in Baku last year, I decided that my country will double specific financing under climate agreements, and this is by 2028. Let us not forget that there's a need to invest in countering climate change, but there's a need to take into account the depletion of biodiversity throughout the world. COP17 and the Biological Diversity Convention, October 2026, will be held in Yerevan. This is a key opportunity to transform the commitments into reality, specifically when it comes to financing and meaningful protection of ecosystems. Madam President, we cannot pass over in silence the alarming setbacks in human rights, freedom, the repression of freedom, civil society, excessive use of force. These are all undermining the very basis of civilizations and are resulting in a loss of trust of citizens vis-a-vis systems. Women's rights are a key pillar for peace, for development, and for justice. 30 years after the Beijing conference, gender equality between men and women has still not been fully universally attained, and this remains a key priority, which is something we need to reaffirm. There's an urgent need to generate collective commitment to combat violence against women and girls and against all kinds of persecution which they endure, including in conflict-affected areas. No society can be prosperous if such inequality persists there. Likewise, no society can develop without taking care of its young population, because young people are not just the future of the world. Young people are the present. 30 years after the World Youth Program, it is incumbent upon us to raise the role of young people in discussions on the economy, civic life, access to education, employment, digital issues. This is not a privilege, this is a right. Madam President, public global health is a key. Non-communicable diseases are the main cause of premature deaths, and there's a need for cross-sectoral mobilization to address this challenge. I welcome the key role of the WHO with the global action against these diseases, but there's a need to move further to strengthen synergies among the stakeholders to improve the effectiveness of action, particularly among budgetary constraints. The fourth high-level meeting on this issue should generate new momentum to intensify prevention and to provide universal access to high-quality care. Madam President, the 80th anniversary of the United Nations offers an opportunity to breathe new life into multilateralism, to reform its operations, and to address the liquidity crisis. Reform of the United Nations should restore people's trust and to establish an effective structure and based on core values. The United Nations is the only universal body which is capable of defending sovereignty of states and embodies the ideal of cooperation amongst peoples. But this is not only at the UN headquarters. The specialized institutions, UNESCO, FAO, and IAEA, and many others. These all play a critical role by providing concrete support for environmental, educational, and social policies of states, helping them to fully meet their responsibility without duplication of mandates in New York. And let us recenter the work of our organization to focus on the priorities enshrined in the Charter. We need to rekindle a spirit of dialogue and the spirit of organization. The general debate should once again become this unique opportunity where leaders of the world listen to one another and seek to achieve mutual understanding understanding, the Principality of Monaco cherishes the hope that through reform, the UN will once again become the center with the harmonization of UN efforts for the maintenance of peace and security in accordance with Article 1 of our Charter. No state alone can resolve the crises plaguing our times. It's by sharing ideas, resources, and willingness that we can together build a future of peace, of lasting peace, because together we are better. Thank you.
Au nom de l'Assemblée générale, je tiens
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the Sovereign Prince of Monaco.
l'Assemblée va
The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Masoud Pezeshkian, President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, Mr. Secretary General, Madam President, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this year, and I quote, "Better Together, 80 years and more of peace, development, and human rights," unquote, is in truth a summons to solidarity and to a shared vision of a brighter future. Our religious conviction, as well as the call of the prophets, rests upon the equality of the rights of all human beings. That which renders man more worthy is piety, namely truthfulness, wisdom, purity, and benevolence. The bedrock of all divine religions and of the human conscience is this golden maxim: that which you would not approve for yourself, do not approve for others. Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, once said, "Act towards others as you would have them act towards you." The Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, said, "None of you is a true believer unless he desires for others what he desires for himself." The sage Hillel, the elder, expressed the essence of the Torah as such: "That which is hateful unto thee, do not do unto thy fellow." In the traditions of the Orient, likewise, the central teaching is this very principle, and secular schools of ethics grounded in reason and conscience have arrived at the same conclusion. Excellencies, is this the state of our world? Let us behold the past 2 years. The world in these 2 years was witness to genocide in Gaza, was witness to the destruction of homes and repeated violation of sovereignty and territorial integrity in Lebanon, was witness to the devastation of Syria's infrastructure, was witness to assault against the people of Yemen, was witness to the forced starvation of emaciated children in the arms of their mothers, was witness to the assassination of Iran's scientists, was witness to the surreptitious raids infringing upon the sovereignty of nations, violating the territorial integrity of states, and openly targeting leaders of people. And all of this under the full support of the most heavily armed regime in the face of the earth, and under the pretext of self-defense. Would you countenance such things for yourselves? Who is the disturber of the stability of the region and the world? Who is the actual threat against international peace and security? Who is the violator of the golden moral maxim of mankind? Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, you all bore witness that this past June, my country was subjected to a savage aggression in flagrant contravention of the most elementary principles of international law. The aerial assaults of the Zionist regime and the United States of America against Iran's cities, homes, and infrastructures, precisely at a time when we were treading the path of diplomatic negotiations, constituted a grave betrayal of diplomacy and a subversion of efforts towards the establishment of stability and peace. This brazen act of aggression, in addition to martyring a number of commanders, citizens, children, women, scientists, and intellectual elites of my country, inflicted a grievous blow upon international trust and the very prospect of peace in the region. Should we fail to confront such perilous breaches of international norms, these aberrations shall spread to engulf the world. The assault upon nuclear facilities under safeguards and international supervision, the open attempt to assassinate leaders and duly constituted officials of UN member states, the systematic targeting of journalists and members of the press, and the killing of human beings who solely by the reason of their knowledge and expertise are converted into military targets. Again, would you countenance such acts for yourselves? With this behavior, they have killed at the very least over 35,000 innocent civilians in Gaza. They have deprived them of food, drinking water, medication, and proper health care. Those who have perpetrated such crimes this nation, with a magnanimous spirit and the systematic targeting of journalists and members of the press, and the killing of human beings who solely by the reason of their knowledge and expertise are converted into military targets. Again, would you countenance such acts for yourselves? Those who have perpetrated such crimes must know that Iran, the most ancient continuous civilization upon the face of the earth, has ever stood steadfast against the tempests of history. This nation, with a magnanimous spirit and an eternal will, has time and again demonstrated that it shall never bow before aggressors. And today as well, in the face of the transgressors, it stands upright with reliance upon the power of faith and its national cohesion. In this 12-day defense, the patriotic and valiant people of Iran laid bare before the aggressors the fallacy and self-delusion of their arrogant calculations. The enemies of Iran unwittingly fortified the sacred national unity. The people of Iran, despite the most severe, protracted, and crushing economic sanctions, psychological and media warfare, and persistent efforts to sow discord, at the very instant the first bullet was fired upon their soil, rose in unison in support of their valiant armed forces, and today they continue to honor the blood of their martyrs. Here, in the name of all Iranian people, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all personalities, nations, governments, and international and regional organizations that stood in solidarity with Iran during this war. Ladies and gentlemen, today, after nearly 2 years of genocide, mass starvation, the perpetuation of apartheid within the occupied territories, and aggression against its neighbors, the ludicrous and delusional scheme of a greater Israel is being proclaimed with brazenness by the highest echelons of that regime. The scheme encompasses vast swaths of the region. The map itself lays bare the true intentions of the Zionist regime, intentions that have, of late, been openly endorsed by its criminal prime minister. None in the world is secure from the aggressive machinations of this regime. It is manifest that the Zionist regime and its sponsors no longer even content themselves with normalization through political means. Rather, they impose their presence through naked force and have styled it peace through strength. Yet, this is neither peace nor power. It is nothing but aggression rooted in coercion and bullying. But we envision our powerful Iran alongside powerful neighbors within a strong region with a radiant future. A future in which we stand together against a grand project that imposes genocide, destruction, and instability upon the region. A future in which collective security is assured through genuine mechanisms of defensive cooperation and joint response to threats. A future in which human dignity and cultural diversity are cherished as foundational values. A future in which collective development is realized through joint investment in infrastructure and modern sciences. A future in which energy security and the equitable use of vital resources from the pillars of economic stability. A future in which the environment is safeguarded for posterity. A future in which national sovereignty and the territorial integrity of states are regarded as non-negotiable principles, a future not in pursuit of peace imposed by force, but founded upon strength derived through peace. In such a strong region, slaughter and bloodshed shall find no place. It is for this very reason that my country has, for many years, been among the staunchest advocates of establishing a region free of weapons of mass destruction. Yet those who themselves possess the largest nuclear arsenals and who, in flagrant breach of the NPT, make their weapons even deadlier and more destructive, have for years subjected our people to pressures on the basis of spurious allegations. Last week, 3 European states, having failed through a decade of bad faith and thereafter by supporting military aggression to bring the proud people of Iran to their knees, at the behest of the United States of America, sought by means of pressure, coercion, imposition, and manifest abuse to reinstate against Iran the Security Council resolutions that had already been terminated. In doing so, they set aside good faith. They circumvented legal obligations. They sought to portray Iran's lawful remedial measures taken in response to the United States' withdrawal from the JCPOA and to Europe's breach and utter incapacity as a gross violation. They falsely presented themselves as parties of good standing to the agreement, and they disparaged Iran's sincere efforts as insufficient. All of this was in pursuit of nothing less than the destruction of the very JCPOA, which they themselves had once held as the foremost achievement of multilateral diplomacy. This unlawful measure, which has also met the opposition of certain members of the Security Council, possesses no international legitimacy and will not garner the approbation of the international community. I hereby declare once more before this assembly that Iran has never sought and will never seek to build a nuclear bomb. We do not seek nuclear weapons. This is our belief based on the edict issued by the supreme leader and by religious authorities. Therefore, we never sought weapons of mass destruction, nor will we ever seek them. Whereas those who disturb the peace and stability in the region lies in Israel, but Iran is the one that is being punished for those actions. There is a poem that roughly says something to the effect that someone in one side of the world does something to disturb the peace and someone else is punished for those actions. Ladies and gentlemen, the Islamic Republic of Iran welcomes peace and stability. We believe that the future of our region and of the world must be built upon cooperation, trust, and shared development. In this framework, Iran supports the peace process between the Republic of Azerbaijan and the Republic of Armenia and hopes that its outcome shall be enduring and serve as a foundation for improved relations between these two neighboring states. Iran also hopes that the efforts to bring an end to the war in Ukraine may result in a just and lasting agreement between Russia and Ukraine and bring solace to the human suffering caused by this crisis. Iran welcomes the defensive pact between the two brotherly Muslim countries, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, as a beginning for a comprehensive regional security system with the cooperation of the Muslim states of West Asia in the political, security, and defense domains. Finally, Iran condemns the criminal aggression of the Israeli regime against Qatar, which resulted in the martyrdom of a number of Palestinian and Qatari nationals, and declares its support and solidarity with the government and people of Qatar. Ladies and gentlemen, true security is not achieved through force, but through confidence building, mutual respect, regional convergence, and multilateralism grounded in international laws. Based on this foundation, a call upon all to practice listening to one another instead of raising voices, to re-examine the intellectual premises of polarization and political violence, which today ensnares not only the international community, but also renders societies internally with tension and turmoil. To uphold as the common denominator of all beliefs and cultures the principles that whatever we do not approve for ourselves, we should not impose upon others, instead of distorting concepts and narratives with biased interpretations. To restore and rehabilitate the credibility of international laws, institutions, and mechanisms, and to commit to the establishment of a regional system of security and cooperation in West Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, we Iranians have extended our power in the world not by producing and employing nuclear weapons, nor by the slaughter of hundreds of thousands in the 20th century, nor by genocide and the imposition of starvation upon the children in Gaza in the 21st century, and not even through the historic empires of Iran, but rather through a culture of human fellowship and the message of empathy of universal sages such as Rumi, Hafiz, Saadi, who 8 centuries ago declared human beings are members of a whole, in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is inflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human, you cannot pertain. Those criminals who bully by murdering children are not worthy of the name human being, and assuredly they shall never prove to be trustworthy partners. Relying upon its time-honored tradition of altruism and human fellowship, Iran is a steadfast partner and a trustworthy companion for all peace-seeking countries, a friendship and a partnership grounded not in fleeting expediency, but in dignity, trust, and a shared future. We, the upright people of Iran, by standing firm against lawless marauders, have surmounted with honor the injustices, discriminations, and double standards imposed upon us. And today, with an opportunity-oriented outlook, we have transformed this historic achievement of the Iranian people into a platform for a leap toward a hopeful future. Let us together with you turn threats into opportunities. I thank you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency José Raúl Mulino Quintero, President of the Republic of Panama. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Muy buenos días.
A very good morning, Madam President, distinguished heads of state and government, honourable delegates. On behalf of the Panamanian people, with profound respect and renewed hope, I appear before this honourable assembly on the 80th anniversary of this organisation, which remains a beacon for peace, cooperation and progress. Panama has been committed since the signing of the Charter of San Francisco in 1945 to peace building, security, sustainable development and human rights. Over these 8 decades, our country has championed multilateral diplomacy and public international law as a cornerstone of our foreign policy. The UN 80 initiative, presented by the Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, offers an opportunity to reflect on the past, to raise awareness of present threats, and to envision a fairer future. We firmly believe that today more than ever we must strengthen the value of multilateralism to respond to global challenges and crises as a tool to mitigate asymmetries among nations. In this regard, I wish to highlight that multilateral policy contributed to our country's removal, for instance, from discriminatory lists imposed by the European Union and the Financial Action Task Force. Since it does not make sense to be a member of the Security Council of this organisation while at the same time appearing on lists alongside countries that promote terrorism, we believe it is the right time to undertake a comprehensive reform to make the Security Council more effective, to make the General Assembly more representative, to make specialized agencies more inclusive, and, above all, to reduce bureaucracy. Panama, just like other countries, calls for greater representation of Latin America and the Caribbean in decision-making bodies. The time has come to update the architecture of multilateral governance. Our region is the world's leading exporter of food. It is home to a strategic canal linking the Atlantic and the Pacific, and it holds more than 50% of the planet's biodiversity. We are major suppliers of minerals. We possess the largest freshwater reserves. We live together in peace, and we strive to preserve this. All of these elements make us a key global actor, and we must ensure that our representation reflects our role and our global significance. In line with our mission to contain and prevent the tragic outcome of a global war, which was its fundamental raison d'être, the United Nations is also facing a challenge of promoting urgent action to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Today, the world is facing a trifecta of devastating crises: climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss, all against a backdrop of weakened cooperation. The response to these crises must be swift and united. In response, Panama has put forward its Nature Pledge, which is our pact with nature. This is a new way of understanding environmental and climate policy, integrating our obligations on climate, biodiversity, and land into a single national commitment. In practice, Panama is pledging to curb its emissions by 2035. Even as a carbon-negative country, we believe there's always room to take further steps towards sustainability for future generations. To this end, we will be restoring 100,000 hectares of priority ecosystems, including mangroves and water basins, because nature, we think, is our front line of defense against climate change. Panama trusts in a renewed United Nations, one that strengthens digital security and international cooperation with ethical and inclusive principles, that supports just energy transitions, and one that upholds freedom of expression. In this spirit, we reaffirm our unwavering respect for freedom and democracy in our region, which continues to suffer from instability at the hands of those who disregard the popular will expressed through the ballot box, or who simply do not permit open and transparent elections. We aspire to be a member of the United Nations that is capable of preventing conflicts before they arise, that can better respond promptly to humanitarian emergencies, that better coordinates its field agencies, and that more faithfully represent the diversity of peoples across the globe. Panama has offered to host offices of United Nations system organizations to support reform efforts under the UN 80 initiative. I also wish today to express my solidarity with
You have this. You have other opportunities with maybe not as much institutional leverage, but who are seeking to do good things, some of our smaller startups, some of our rural facilities that may not necessarily get as much dollars flowing there. So the funding for this program is available only to Florida-based research institutions. We've already allocated $80 million to support 95 research projects across the state, and this year's additional funding of $60 million brings the total investment over just a couple-year period to $140 million. And so that's a real significant commitment on behalf of the people of Florida. We want to see partnerships between universities, research institutions, and healthcare facilities throughout Florida. We want to see harnessing all the collective expertise and resources to try to produce really strong outcomes. And we've had a lot of success stories, which I know the First Lady will likely talk about when she gets up here. But for my part, I'm
Here, my mom got a message saying that the school was on lockdown and that somebody was stabbed. They wouldn't tell us who it was. We couldn't get a hold of my little sister. So my mom came in, woke me up. I ran out of this house, no shoes on, came up here to check on her. I finally got a hold of her and found out that her teacher wouldn't let her call nobody. The school was on lockdown. Her teacher wouldn't let her call nobody. So I finally got a hold of her, found out that it wasn't her, that it was two boys. And so they wouldn't let me get her out, though. She was having a panic attack, and she's diagnosed with panic attack in her thing, and they still wouldn't let me come and get her out. So I'm trying now to go down and get her out.
And from what we understand, just to give you an idea, we've been told that at least 3 students were stabbed, and one of a student is in custody. I guess what's your reaction to that, knowing that your daughter was around all that?
It's just crazy. She's my sister, yeah.
Sorry,
it's absolutely crazy. There was a guy with a gun in here last week. Friday, there was a kid with a gun in the school. They don't check the school, they don't check the kids, they don't check the bags. There's metal detectors that don't even work, because if they did, this wouldn't be happening. If the metal detectors worked, this would not be happening. Or because they would catch them at the door. But instead, they're getting shit into the school. I'm sorry. They're getting stuff into the school that shouldn't be in there. There's metal detectors to get it out, and yet they're still getting them into the school. It's bullshit.
And I guess talk to me about just how you are feeling in this moment as someone who's very careful of your sister.
I am very pissed off. I am very pissed off that the Pittsburgh public school system has failed all of these children. This would not be happening if the Pittsburgh public school system gave a shit enough to make sure those metal detectors worked, make sure those fucking security guards, and made sure that there was nothing in that school. Because if they did their jobs and the metal detectors worked and everything was supposed to be how it is, or is how it was supposed to be, none of these kids would be in the hospital. None of these kids would be going to jail because they would have been stopped at the front door.
And I guess, what are you hoping for from here? What are you calling on Pittsburgh Public Schools to do from here on?
They need to fix all of their metal detectors. They need to have their security guards checked and made sure that they're doing their job. When I went here, they allowed us to walk out the doors. Okay? They didn't care about us. They've never cared about us. They need to get their shit together and start taking care of our kids, because these are our future. This is our future, and they don't give a shit about them. Kids are dying, and nobody gives a shit. And it's bullshit. Like, all of this could be prevented if they just gave a shit about our kids enough to fix their stuff. They're putting money into stuff that isn't necessary and not putting money into the metal detectors, the security guards getting the proper training that they need and actually wanting to do their job. Because if they did, this would not be happening.
And you mentioned that you're here to pick up your sister. Have you spoken to your sister?
So I finally spoken to her. She is doing okay. She's scared. She's completely terrified. But she's alive. She wasn't stabbed. And at this point, that's all I could be thankful for. And that's sad. It's sad that all I'm thankful for is that my sister didn't get stabbed in school where she's supposed to be safe.
And did she give any indication of where she was?
She was right down the hall from where it happened. So she was about, they said that it happened on, she said that it happened on the 500, the one right down from her. I don't exactly know where it was. She's terrified. She just wants to come home.
Did you give any indication that she knew any of the people involved?
She didn't know. She actually sent me a video of the hallway that somebody showed her. If you want me to show it to you.
Yeah.
There's just blood all over the hallway. It's horrible. Like, these kids are scared to go to school. This is where they're supposed to learn. And they're scared to go to school. How are they supposed to get an education if they're scared to come here? And it's not like they're scared to get bullied. They're scared for their lives. They're scared to die. And that is wrong. This is our schools. This is where they're going to learn to be our future. Like, one of these kids could become president one day, and they might not, because they might get shot in school and die and never even have the opportunity to become what they're supposed to become, because our government and our school system just doesn't give a shit. Like, I just don't understand. These are our future. This is our children. And all that it could take is better metal detectors and security guards that give a shit. That's not a lot to ask for. It's not.
Okay, I'm coming in late. Do you know if there are metal detectors?
There are. There's metal detectors at the front door, and and in the lunchroom where they go in for the morning. So they go in the lunchroom in the morning, and there's 2 sets of metal detectors that they have to walk through, and they check their bags. There's no reason this should have happened. None.
And your sister?
Yeah.
How old is she?
She is 15. She just turned 15.
And she texted you?
Yeah.
Do you mind reading us the text?
Yeah. She said they want. I said, Lily, call me now, please. She said, I can't. I'm in class, and Mr. Wright and it's Mr. Wright's class. He won't let me. He'll yell at me. I said, excuse my language. I said, fuck him. Call me on speaker right now. She said, we have been on hold since 8:29. No, Bella. I said, yes, Lily. I'm waiting at the school to get you. 3 kids got stabbed. She said, what? For real? I said, yes, Lily, please call me. She said, they won't let me leave. They won't let me call you. I said, I know, I'm waiting. Where is Ace? Because her best friend also goes to the school. She still can't get a hold of him. So I don't know if he's okay.
Did you get a notification from the school?
So this isn't my daughter, this is my sister. My mom got a notification about a half hour after the fact, after it all started. I got up here, the police were already here. They wouldn't tell me what was going on. I couldn't get a hold of her. The teacher wouldn't let her answer the phone. I didn't get a hold of her. I sat up here for an hour before I got a hold of her, finding out stuff from other parents that were just showing up, trying to figure out what was going on. All because the school's on lockdown, so the teachers won't let them use their phones. The school's on lockdown. You should let the kids use their phones and tell their parents that they're okay. And on top of that, it should never have happened. Like, these are our future. These are our kids. And they're just letting, like, a Friday, there was a kid with a gun in the school. How do you get in if the metal detectors work? If you're checking those kids' bags like you're supposed to, and the metal detectors work, how the hell did they get that kid to get that gun into school? How the hell did they get a steak knife into school? Like, this is where they're supposed to go to learn, and they're scared to go to school because they're scared they're gonna die. When I was a kid, I was scared to get bullied. I was scared to get made fun of. Normal kid things. I wasn't scared that I was gonna get shot in my classroom.
How do you know it was a steak knife?
There was a picture. It broke off in one of the kids. I don't know if you want me to show one of the cameras.
We'll get you to text it to us.
Perfect.
Okay, can I get your first and last name?
Isabella Gaeta.
Could you spell that?
Isabella Gaita.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really sorry.
The last name again, Gaita.
Gaita.
Mic test, 1 2 3. Mic test, 1 2 1 2 1 2. Mic test, 1 2 3 1 2 3. Mic test. Good. Okay. still hear us? Are you you're gonna pound it up and down?
Hotspot. Hotspot with you? Do you have a hotspot with you? I might.
Rather see my computer bag, top zip, unzip it, feeling more pockets when you see my computer.
Yep. Do you see our live? You mean me physically or our live shot? Oop, okay. Well, we are set up for the presser, so we would have to leave a very busy spot. I don't know if I'm... Can you relay that to Leslie? And I only have the same information as Janelle. I'm not trying to push Janelle in there, but we have the spot, and we are surrounded by network and shit. If she insists, I'll do it. But if we don't have to move, I don't think we should. And I hate saying that because you guys know I'm always down. I wasn't sure where this was. I'm sorry. I just... Okay. Okay, what's the angle here? They want us to go live. What's my angle here, guys? What do you want me to... I'll speak on whatever. Are the numbers still the same? I guess so. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. I'm just making sure numbers are still the same. Golly. Nope. 1 second. Let's do it. I'm probably going to make it quick. Is that Jason Whiteley? Everyone's in. You're so okay, you're so okay. Hey, good morning to you. Yeah, I've been asking Dallas Police media relations team all morning long an estimated time on this press conference. We were initially told 9 o'clock, then 9:30, but right now we are waiting on Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson to arrive before this presser begins. I imagine they will brief him as well. There is a lot of traffic off North Stemmons Freeway. I can only imagine that may be the holdup. Just want to go over some of the details of what we know of how this unfolded. Preliminary information, want to stress that because this press conference, we were hoping to get more concrete information. We know 3 wounded at the ICE facility, 2 confirmed dead, 1 sniper found shot on the roof of a nearby immigration attorney's office, self-inflicted gunshot wound. Now, this all unfolded shortly before 7 a.m. around 6:40. Sources here at the scene tell me that DPD officers had an eye on the shooter. They were pushing up against the building where he was, and that is when he took his life with the self-inflicted gunshot wound. Pardon me while I make sure that. Okay, I thought I heard something behind us about the presser. But again, we are still waiting on that press conference to begin. We are waiting here alongside North Stemmons Freeway and Empire Central Drive, just outside of a fast food restaurant, just waiting for this to begin, hoping to get more concrete details on what unfolded, how it came to be, and what comes next in this investigation as well. We know it's going to be very lengthy. Roads all around this area still closed off. When we were first on air just after 7 a.m., we were not even half a mile down the street. It took us 20 minutes to come just a block or two down this way to the fast food restaurant where we are set up now because of so many road closures that law enforcement are just keeping people away from. Active scene still down the way. Hard to see from where we are right now. I think it might be a little too crowded, but we can still see an enormous amount of police units. We know FBI is on here, SWAT was here. The source I was speaking to I know is cleared, so some have left, but still a lot of lights and sirens still down that way. Not anticipating that to be clearing up anytime soon. So again, what we know is preliminary information. This unfolded around 6:40 in the morning. When we first got here at 7:40, just after 7 a.m., we were still seeing law enforcement making their way here to the scene, closing off roads. We know that 3 were shot, 2 confirmed dead, a sniper also dead, found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound on the roof of an adjacent building and immigration attorney's office. We will be live streaming this press conference, streaming here on WFA Plus, so certainly stay with us. We have plenty of questions for DPD and maybe even the mayor, so stick with us here. I'll send it back to you in studio. I was like, I don't know. I've heard. I read it from the acting ICE guy, and I just said, I just hope I don't get in trouble for that. I heard you say it too. That's when I checked. I was like, I don't know. I heard. That was good. To do. Been standing in this for 2 hours. Smart. This is a smart shot. No, it showed twice as well. Oh, no, thanks.
You're so sweet, Uni. Thank you. You're so kind. Thank you. Oh, my friend. Did you that's I just learned it was you this morning. David had told me it happened, but we didn't know which photog, and I hadn't seen you. Did it hurt? But they got him, right? Like they arrested him? I'm sorry. I heard, yeah. I'm sorry, friend. I would too, man. I would too. I just... Because before it's like, oh, well, I feel sorry for, you know, that's... He had his shirt off and everything, and we were like... Yeah. We saw this girl pull up in her car at like 4 a.m. And then an hour later, this guy pulls up in his truck, and they get out.
I'm going to bring on my... Jesse ready? Yeah, Jesse Ray's right there. I'm going to bring on my stuff. Yeah, I'm... Excuse me. Oh, yeah. I'm just connecting where... You gonna move everything? Yeah. You got some mics over here. Y'all want to come get your mics? We're moving the podium.
I've got your new knee. I've got your cord. Are we? You need to move forward?
People got mics over here.
Get it underneath the cover?
Under the cover, brother. Hey, come up on the cover. All right. I'm going to turn it around. There you go.
There's
you got the after in?
No.
Okay, I
don't. I have the other little table.
Can you ring me the little table behind there? I think we're too tall, man. That's the little stand. Where's the little stand? What? Oh, they're bringing a ring? Yeah. The little stand? I'll get it, yeah. Okay.
Get the little stand so get the water out.
Yeah, done. See, and then I'm going to tape to the bottom of your stand, all right?
Mic check, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, mic check, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, mic check. 1, 2, 3, mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ivory. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic, check, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Mic, check, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3. Mic check. ¿Estás bien? Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 10, 10. You're good? 1, 2, 3. Ivory, you're good? 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Nudie, check, check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mic check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. You're good.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your help. Juan, mic check, 1 2 1 2. Mic check, 1 2. Mic check, Wani. Okay. You gonna speak next? Joe, you're speaking after Joe, right? Josh is speaking
Good morning. We're about to get started and brief you on the events as we know them that happened this morning.
All right. Let me start off by saying that I'm a person who believes very, very strongly in the power of prayer, and that prayer changes things. And so I'm going to ask everyone, please join me in praying for the families of the folks who lost their lives today. Pray for the speedy recovery for those who are hurt and were injured in what happened today. But maybe even more to the point, we're a country and a city that needs prayer. So I'm going to ask you all to join me also in praying for this city, that we can come together at a time like this, and that we can be there for one another the way we always have in times like this, to support one another and help us all get through this very difficult time, not just in our city, but in our country. And that's why I'd ask you to pray for our nation. There's a lot going on right now. in our country. A lot of it's confusing. It's a scary time. I've got children. I've got 3 young children, and I'm here to tell you that it is challenging to explain to them what's going on in our country right now. But I said before, and I'll say it again, I believe in the power of prayer to change things, and it can change the hearts of people. It can change this country. It can change the city. So please pray for everyone who's affected by today's tragedy. I also want to say thank you to the Dallas Police Department, and say thank you to the Dallas Sheriff's Department, Dallas County Sheriff's Department, Texas Department of Public Safety, and all of our various federal law enforcement partners who acted so quickly today to make sure that today's tragedy wasn't worse than what it was. So on behalf of the city of Dallas, I want to say thank you to all of you. And you're going to hear from some of those folks later, but I wanted to let you know that we appreciate what you all do, not just today, but every day, to help keep us all safe. And lastly, and this is really important, I would ask all of the city of Dallas residents who can hear me right now, let's be patient, let's remain calm, and let's let our law enforcement partners, our police department, do their job. This is an active investigation. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, and I want to encourage all of you to exercise a little bit of restraint and allow them to do their job to help make sure this continues to be a safe city, and that they can help us figure out what happened here today. But with that, I want to say, again, thank you to all the folks who came out this morning from our law enforcement community. I'll turn it over to our police chief, Daniel Como, to speak a little bit more directly to the investigation itself. And with that, Chief Como, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Today at approximately 6:40 a.m., we received a assist the officer call. We responded to the call, got to the scene, and we later learned that we had 4 individuals that were shot, 2 of them deceased, including the shooter. The DPD was able to locate the shooter, who was deceased. We're going to be working this investigation shoulder to shoulder with our federal partners. The FBI is on scene, and right now I'm going to introduce you to the SAC of the Dallas Field Division, FBI Joe Rumrock.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Joe Rothrock. I'm the special agent in charge of the Dallas FBI Field Office. I want to first start by thanking our partners in local law enforcement, specifically the Dallas Police Department, for their quick and timely response. I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack. This will be a whole of government response. There will be no resource not utilized to bring all those individuals who are responsible to bring them to justice and to hold them accountable. While we're not releasing identities of any victims at this time, what I can confirm for you is no members of law enforcement were hurt during this attack. If any member of the public has information that would help the FBI's investigation, I would ask that you please report that to 1-800-CALL-FBI. Again, any piece of information will be helpful, but this will be an ongoing investigation between us, a number of federal partners, and our local partners, again, to ensure that anyone responsible is held accountable. With that, I will turn it over to my counterpart from the ICE Enforcement and Removal Office.
Good morning. My name is Joshua Johnson. I'm the acting field office director for ICE Dallas. I'll be brief with my comments, but I do want to start off by saying thank you to the Dallas Police Department, Dallas FBI, HSI, CBP, ATF, and virtually every law enforcement officer in North Texas for your support. This is the second time I've had to stand in front of you and talk about a shooter at one of my facilities, and I think that the takeaway from all of this is that the rhetoric has to stop. There are people out there who are seeing what is being placed online, and they're coming and they're doing acts of violence against ICE employees. So that's kind of all I have for today, is that it's just got to stop. It's dangerous, and people are losing their lives. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Again, thank you all so much. As it was said here today, if you do have any information, reach out to 1-800-CALL-FBI. Thank you. Thank you.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree, that's fine, that's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking each other. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of ICE and CBP and everyone who puts their lives on the line to keep us safe. The divisive rhetoric tragically has real consequences. I hope that every one of us will pray, number one, for the safety of law enforcement that are risking their lives to keep us safe. Number two, for the health of those who were shot and injured today. We still don't know the full details of who was injured, but for the families also of the victims of this shooting. Violence has no place. It is wrong. And we should come together. If we want to have a debate about immigration policies, we can do so in the halls of Congress without demonizing each other, and especially without demonizing the men and women who every day put on a badge and go risk their lives to keep us safe. And we should not be putting language out there that inspires madmen to commit evil crimes. Our prayers are with the men and women of law enforcement, and we ought to come together and have some decency across the political aisle to say this violence is wrong and it needs to stop.
Senator, have you been told that immigrants to take aid with the victims of today's shooting?
My understanding is the details of who the victims are still being ascertained, so I don't want to go ahead of law enforcement releasing these details. What they have said is that no law enforcement was injured, and so that's a natural inference, but I don't know the details.
Special Agent, can you talk a little bit about some of the evidence you mentioned earlier? Just for clarity, I think there's going to be a lot of questions. Our understanding is that some of the shell casings had specific writing that was relevant to the voting. Give us more information.
So I'm not going to go into any more details at this time. We will come back to you when we have more details to share. Again, our goal here will be transparency as those details become available, but we are still in the early stages of an investigation. Information is still coming in. When we have more detail, we will come back to this group. I'm not going to be identifying victims at this time. The only thing I will confirm confirm at this time is no law enforcement was injured. Certainly you can respect law enforcement's need to make notifications. At this point in time, we're not going to take any additional questions from law enforcement. Again, I'd ask for you to respect the fact that this is an ongoing investigation, and as more details come available.
We're not asking for the names of the victims.
I understand.
In a general sense,
I will,
if the victims are the detainees.
the only thing I can say right now is that no law enforcement was injured this morning as part of the attack. I won't be taking any more questions, neither will law enforcement this time. We'll come back to you later today or in the coming days when we have additional information. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all.